And some breaking news that's come into us from the Reuters news agency that Mike Waltz, who is the US National Security Advisor, has will be leaving his post. That's according to Reuters. Mike Waltz, who, of course, has just been in the job for 102 days for the term of this first Trump administration, came to prominence for many people in the past few weeks when he was involved in that leak of information about US airstrikes on Yemen. Mike Waltz, who inadvertently, he says, added a journalist from The Atlantic to a Signal chat in which discussion about the strike on Yemen was carried out. There was detail about the type of aircraft used as well as the targets that were exchanged. Mike Waltz, who's been under pressure since then, and also just last month there was reporting from the Washington Post that Mike Waltz had actually been using a personal Gmail account to conduct government business. He says that, of course, apologised for that Signal error, he says. He claims that he wasn't aware as to how the journalist from The Atlantic, Jeffrey Goldberg's number ended up in his phone and how it ended up being added to that Signal chat. He described it as something of a glitch. Lots of pressure has been on his shoulders since then as people continue to look at whether or not these members of the Trump administration who are privy to very crucial top secret government information are handling that information in the way that is fit for those that hold such offices. Having inadvertently, as I say, added Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, to that Signal group chat, and then that further reporting that he'd been using a personal Gmail address to carry out government business. It now seems as if Mike Waltz is going to be leaving his post as National Security Advisor. Our US correspondent James Matthews is with us to react to this news. So, James, is the first and most high-profile casualty so far of this Trump administration?
It is, yeah. Mike Waltz, clearly the sacrificial lamb in all of this. I mean, Donald Trump, one suspects, has been waiting for this moment, getting beyond the 100 days before what is a blow to his administration. This was a severe embarrassment at the time. You'll remember, Kamali, and indeed you've been explaining the situation whereby there was a Signal group chat, and accessing that were key members of the Trump administration, but Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic magazine, was inadvertently added to this. So on a number of levels, this was insecure, inappropriate. The Signal, a commercial app, and the addition of nothing less than a journalist who was able to access battle plans, essentially attack plans, timings, locations, key details of an attack in Yemen. Trump has ridden it out beyond the 100 days before announcing or making this move. Mike Waltz, former representative, former special forces, who has served in a number of conflicts, very much a loyal lieutenant to Donald Trump. We saw him yesterday at the cabinet meeting, loyal. Indeed, he was on TV, cable news this morning, playing the role of National Security Advisor, talking about Ukraine, talking about Russia, saying it's time to bring Russia to the table. That was just a couple of hours ago. So this news will have come as a surprise, presumably, to him within the past couple of hours. It raises a number of questions in itself, because Waltz is not the only one involved in a Signal scandal related to military attacks in Yemen. There is Pete Hegseth, of course, the Secretary of State for Defence. He was on that group chat that Waltz was involved in and that Waltz took full responsibility for. But Hegseth, in recent days, we have learned, had a Signal group chat. Accessing that were his wife and his brother, both of whom have roles in the Pentagon, but nothing close to the kind of classification they would require to get access automatically to attack plans. So there is the question, if sacking is good for Waltz, Why is it not good for Pete Hegseth? Clearly, as Defence Secretary, he occupies a more senior role and very much an old friend of Donald Trump. But that is the question now, I suppose. Controversy, questions surrounding Pete Hegseth, which have continued for several weeks now, and the focus sharpens with this sacking of Mike Waltz. If you get sacked for what was an unacceptable breach, clearly, of security, if that's the rule, why does it not apply to the Secretary of State as it applies to the National Security Advisor?
Yeah, that question will now hang over the administration, won't it, James? It's fascinating that it comes in this week of the marking of 100 days of the Trump administration. I mean, Waltz himself said that he took full responsibility for what happened to have Jeffrey Goldberg's name added to that Signal group. He said he built it and it was embarrassing, it was a glitch. But this is a man of relative experience, one would say. I mean, a 51-year-old was in the House for 3 terms, has served in the Army in the 90s and was in the National Guard, worked in the administration of George W. Bush and advised Vice President Dick Cheney. I mean, compared to someone like Pete Hegseth, who was in the Army but was on TV before joining the Trump administration, Mike Waltz is the guy who kind of knows how this all works. And while thinking about that, James, as well, it's probably worth just thinking about what a national security advisor actually does for the president.
Well, he's a key member of operations like attacks in Yemen. He is in the room when key decisions, sensitive decisions, are made. And as an individual who has access to the kind of detail that should be nowhere near anybody's iPhone, anybody's Signal group chat, any commercial app, which of course can be tapped into by foreign adversaries. And, you know, there are a number of strands to this story. There is a list of people who were on that Signal group chat, one of whom was Steve Witkoff, special envoy, of course, to Moscow. While this Signal group chat scandal was ongoing and while this kind of sensitive detail was part of that group chat, Witkoff was in Moscow dealing with Vladimir Putin. The White House says that he did not take his personal phone to Moscow with him. But, you know, that controversy raises questions about security, sure, but also about recklessness in a situation where you're dealing with American servicemen and women involved in military operations, the timing of attacks that were carried out by military personnel in aircraft. So, you know, in that situation whereby you have the Houthis, Iran, whoever, trying to access key information. If they know details about an American aircraft about to fly over enemy territory, then that clearly presents a danger of an enemy looking at their watch, counting the minutes before an aircraft will get to the intended target. You know, that's the kind of danger, and that's the kind of question that has been asked about the Signal group chat and the kind of detail that was put into the public realm. And, you know, bear in mind that the Houthis, they're no ragtag army. I mean, they're a sophisticated unit. And so there's this ongoing question and actually an ongoing question about weakness within the Trump administration and recklessness and that the degree of responsibility that Donald Trump has as commander-in-chief overseeing military strikes, military operations and American security, but also the lives and the safety of American service personnel.